You tell yourself you just need space, that you're independent, that you don't like drama, that you prefer being alone because it's peaceful. And maybe all of that is true, at least partially. But if you're honest with yourself, there have been moments when someone tried to get close to you, and instead of leaning in, you pulled back. Instead of opening up, you shut down. Instead of staying, you created distance. And sometimes, you don't even realize you're doing it. You don't wake up thinking, today I'm going to push people away. It happens subtly. You reply a little less. You take longer to respond. You stop sharing what's really going on. You convince yourself they wouldn't understand anyway. You tell yourself it's better not to expect too much from anyone. Slowly, the connection weakens. And when it finally fades, you tell yourself it just wasn't meant to be. But deep down, there's a pattern. You crave connection. You want someone who understands you, someone who stays, someone who sees past your surface. Yet when someone actually tries, something inside you becomes uncomfortable. You feel exposed, vulnerable, almost restless. And instead of sitting with that discomfort, you protect yourself. Pushing people away is rarely about not caring. It's usually about caring too much and being afraid of what that means. Closeness requires vulnerability, and vulnerability means someone can see your flaws, your insecurities, your fears. If you've ever been judged, rejected, betrayed, or misunderstood before, your mind learned a powerful lesson. Closeness equals risk. So now, without consciously deciding it, you create emotional distance as a safety mechanism. You might do it by becoming overly independent. You insist you don't need anyone. You handle everything alone. When someone offers help, you politely decline. When someone asks how you're really doing, you say, "I'm fine." Not because you are fine, but because explaining feels too heavy. Because what if they don't respond the way you hope? Sometimes you push people away by becoming critical. You notice their flaws quickly. You focus on what they're doing wrong. You tell yourself they're not good enough, not consistent enough, not understanding enough. It feels logical, but beneath that logic may be fear. If you find reasons they aren't right for you, you don't have to risk getting attached. Other times you withdraw emotionally. You're physically present but internally distant. You don't share your deeper thoughts. You avoid difficult conversations. When conflict arises, you shut down instead of working through it. It feels safer to disconnect than to argue and risk losing them. And sometimes you test people without realizing it. You pull back to see if they'll chase. You become cold to see if they'll stay warm. You act indifferent to see if they'll fight for you. These tests are rarely conscious. They're rooted in insecurity, a need for reassurance that feels too vulnerable to ask for directly. All of these behaviors have one thing in common: protection. At some point in your life, connection hurt. Maybe someone left unexpectedly. Maybe someone you trusted broke that trust. Maybe your emotions were dismissed or minimized. Maybe you grew up in an environment where vulnerability wasn't safe. Your nervous system adapted. It decided that distance equals safety. The problem is, what protected you in the past may now be isolating you in the present. When someone tries to get close, your body might react before your mind understands why. You might feel anxious for no clear reason. You might overthink their words. You might interpret neutral actions as signs they'll eventually leave. That anxiety can feel overwhelming. And the easiest way to calm it: create distance. Distance reduces the immediate fear of being hurt, but it also reduces the possibility of being loved deeply. There's another layer to this pattern: self-worth. If deep down you struggle with feeling enough, being fully seen can feel terrifying. When someone admires you or expresses genuine care, part of you may question it. If they really knew me, would they still feel this way? That doubt can lead you to sabotage the connection before they have the chance to discover your flaws. It's easier to leave first than to be left. Sometimes pushing people away looks like staying in control. You avoid relying on anyone. You don't let anyone become too important, because if they're not too important, losing them won't hurt as much, or at least that's what you tell yourself. But control has a cost. Real connection requires some level of surrender. You can't fully control how someone feels about you. You can't control whether they stay forever. And if uncertainty feels unbearable, you might choose isolation over vulnerability. You might also push people away because you've learned to associate love with pressure. If past relationships made you feel suffocated, criticized, or responsible for someone else's happiness, closeness may now feel overwhelming. When someone shows interest instead of feeling warmth, you feel weight, and your instinct is to escape. There are also moments when you push people away not because they've done anything wrong, but because you're overwhelmed internally. When you're stressed, emotionally drained, or struggling silently, you may isolate yourself. You tell yourself you don't want to burden anyone, but in reality, you may be afraid that showing your struggles will change how they see you. So you disappear instead. The irony is that pushing people away often reinforces the very fear that caused it. When you create distance, people may eventually stop trying. They may assume you don't care. They may respect the space you created. And when they step back, it confirms your belief that people leave. But what you don't see is that you quietly guided the outcome. None of this makes you manipulative or cruel. It makes you human. It means you adapted to pain the best way you knew how. But awareness changes everything. The moment you start recognizing these patterns, you gain the power to interrupt them. Ask yourself gently, when someone gets close, what do I feel? Is it warmth or is it tension? When I withdraw, what am I protecting myself from? Rejection, disappointment, being misunderstood. The answers might be uncomfortable, but they are honest. You might realize that you push people away not because you don't want love, but because you don't trust it. You don't trust that it will stay. You don't trust that it won't hurt. You don't fully trust that you deserve it. And so you choose distance over risk. But here's the truth. Pushing people away doesn't eliminate pain. It only changes its form. Instead of the pain of possible rejection, you experience the pain of loneliness. Instead of the fear of being misunderstood, you live with the emptiness of not being known at all. Connection requires courage. Not dramatic gestures, just small moments of honesty, admitting when you're hurt instead of shutting down, saying, I felt distant instead of pretending everything is fine, letting someone see your confusion, your insecurity, your need. That kind of openness feels risky, but it's also the only way to build something real. Part 2. Healing this pattern doesn't start with forcing yourself to be overly open with everyone. It starts with noticing your reactions in real time. The next time you feel the urge to pull away, pause, don't judge yourself. Just observe. What triggered this? Was it something they said, or was it something you felt? Often the trigger is internal. A fear activated, an old memory resurfaced, a belief whispering this won't last. When you become aware of that whisper, you can challenge it, not aggressively but gently. Is this fear based on the present moment or on my past? Many times, you'll realize you're reacting to something that already happened long ago. You can also practice expressing discomfort instead of escaping it. If something feels overwhelming, say so. If you need space, explain why. There is a difference between intentional space and silent withdrawal. One builds trust, the other erodes it. Building secure connections requires tolerating uncertainty. You won't always know how things will unfold. You won't always feel perfectly safe. But safety doesn't come from avoiding closeness. It comes from learning that you can handle vulnerability, even if things don't go perfectly. It's also important to examine the story you tell yourself about independence. Being strong doesn't mean being alone. Self-reliance is healthy. Emotional isolation is not. Humans are wired for connection. Wanting closeness does not make you weak. It makes you human. If you've built walls for years, lowering them will feel unnatural at first. You may feel exposed. You may second-guess yourself. That's normal. Growth often feels uncomfortable before it feels freeing. Start small. Share one honest thought you would normally keep to yourself. Stay present in a difficult conversation instead of shutting down. Let someone help you with something simple. Each small act of openness rewires your nervous system. It teaches you that closeness doesn't automatically equal danger. You may also need to forgive yourself for past patterns. Maybe you've lost relationships because of your distance. Maybe you regret pushing someone away. Guilt can keep you stuck, but understanding your behavior with compassion allows you to change it. You are protecting yourself. That doesn't make you broken. It means you are trying to survive emotionally. The goal is not to eliminate self-protection entirely. Boundaries are important. Not everyone deserves full access to your inner world. The difference is intentionality. Are you setting boundaries because someone is unhealthy, or are you building walls because you're afraid? When you learn to tell the difference, your relationships transform. Imagine what it would feel like to stay instead of withdraw, to express instead of suppress, to ask for reassurance instead of testing someone silently. It might feel awkward at first, but it also opens the door to deeper connection. You don't have to push people away to stay safe. You can learn to communicate your fears. You can learn to sit with vulnerability. You can learn that even if someone leaves, you will survive it. The pain of loss is real, but so is the resilience within you. Pushing people away may have protected you once, but now it might be the very thing standing between you and the love you want. Real intimacy isn't about never feeling afraid. It's about choosing connection despite the fear. And maybe the next time someone reaches for you emotionally, instead of stepping back automatically, you pause. You notice the fear. You acknowledge it. And instead of letting it control you, you take a small step forward. Because the truth is, you don't actually want distance. You want to feel understood. You want to feel chosen. You want to feel safe enough to be fully yourself. And that begins not by pushing people away, but by allowing yourself to stay.